Hi, and welcome to Lesson 20 in Distance Learning for Algebra 1. This is the second lesson of our 7th week of videos. If your teacher is Ms. Boatwright, Ms. Reynolds, Mr. McCrae, Mr. Still, Mr. Strickland, or Mr. Yates, you are in the right place. Remember, you can stop this video at any time. You can rewind it. You can fast forward it. And when you get to the end, you get to the joke of the day. Today's learning target. I can solve equations with x squared and equations with parentheses. This is more review, but it's a little bit trickier stuff than our first lesson of the week. Solving equations with an x squared in it. If there's a term with an x squared, you're going to have to take the square root from each side of the equal sign to get the answer. Square root equations have two answers. One is positive and one is negative. And you always undo the square at the last. In other words, you solve everything until you get to an x squared equals some number, and then you square root both sides. However, you remember, you can't square root a negative number. Negative numbers, by their definition, are the result of a multiplication problem with a positive and a negative number. It's the only way you can get it. Because a positive times a positive is a positive, and a negative times a negative isn't positive. So, if it's a negative number, that means it's impossible for the same number to be multiplied by itself. All right, let's take a look at the first question here. It is x squared equals 16. This is a nice one because it jumps right into what you need to do last for all of these. There's nothing else going on here. I have no other numbers I need to move around or anything like that. So, weird as it seems, I can take the square root of x squared, which is obviously x. X squared means x times x, so the square root of x squared is x. And the square root of 16. The square root of 16, you're probably saying, is what? It's 4. But it's also negative 4, right? Because negative 4 times negative 4 is also 16. So we would write plus or minus 4. There is our answer. Take a look at 2. It says x squared plus 9 equals 73. Now, take a moment to stop the video and try to figure out the answer to that one on your own. Do it now. Did you stop the video? I hope you did. Let's see if you got it right. Well, you can check to see if I got it right. All right, there's my line showing the equal sign. I need to move this 9 because my variables are over here on this side. If I move it over to this other side, it'll be all numbers over there. So the opposite of positive 9 is negative 9. And now what I have is x squared equals 64. And I take the square root of each side, and I get x equals, is it 8? If you said no, and you said it's plus or minus 8, Mr. Yates, you are quite correct. Take a moment to see if you can do 3 and 4. Stop the video, try and do them, and get the answer. Worst thing can happen is you get the wrong answer. Doesn't matter. It's one way we learn when we get the wrong answer, right? Stop the video now and do 3, x squared plus 14 equals 5, and 4, 3x squared plus 2 equals 14. Solve them both for x. Did you stop the video and try it? I hope you did. Let's take a look at the first one. I have x squared plus 14 equals 5 for my number 3. So I know I have to move this 14 right here. Get rid of it because it's on the side with the x squared or the variable. So I go the opposite of positive 14. It's minus 14. And I bring this down. I get x squared equals, what is 5 minus 14? It's negative 9. All right. Is the answer plus or minus 3? No, it's not. The answer is this: no solution. Because you cannot square root a negative. All right, how about that last one? It says 3x squared plus 2 equals 14. Well, I got to get rid of that 2. So I go minus 2, and I get 3x squared, because these eliminate, and this I bring down, equals 12. Now remember, your square root is the last thing you do. So before that I do that, I have to remove this 3 that's in front of the x squared. What that says in math terms is 3 times x squared, so the opposite of multiplication is division. Now I have x squared equals 4. And now I can square root each side. Weird as it seems, it's legal in math. X equals, did you say 2? Or did you say plus or minus 2? Hopefully you said plus or minus 2. But if you said 2, you're in the ballpark. You're picking it up. All right. Distribution. More review. Some of this gave us trouble when we were doing it, but we have to know how to do it to solve equations. If there are parentheses, you have to distribute first to get rid of all the parentheses in the problem before you solve for x. You can use the box method if you find it helpful. You have to be careful about negatives. They distribute if the multiplier is a negative. And then you have to follow all the other steps to solve for x. You have to remember that the sign in front of the number goes with the number. So let's take a look at number 1 here. It says 3 times the parenthetical expression x plus 2 equals 18. So here's my little line, but I have to take this 3 and distribute it first. There's 1, there's the other. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 2 is 6, and it equals 18. Now, since I've done my distribution, I can solve it. I have to remove the 6 because it's over here on the side with the 3 x's. So I go minus 6, and I come up with 3x, which I bring down from above, equals 12. Last step always, in this sort of situation, is divide by the number in front of x, and you get x equals 4. All right, see if you can do number 2. Stop the video, give it a try. It's 4 times the parenthetical expression x minus 9 equals negative 7 times x plus 2 in parentheses. Distribute your number to the parentheses, get rid of them, and solve. Did you solve? Did you stop and solve? Well, let's check to see if I get the right answer too. First, I'm going to distribute this 4 to here and to here. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. Now I'm going to distribute the negative 7. First to the x, and then to the 2. Negative 7 times x, negative 7x. Remember that the sign in front of the number goes with the number. That makes that a negative 9, and this is a negative 7. Negative 7 times 2 is minus 14. All right. First, I would add 7x to each side, and I would get 11x minus 36 equals, since this has gone away, negative 14. Now I got to do something about this negative 36, and the opposite of negative 36 plus 36. Once I do one side, I have to do it to the other side of the equal sign. These go away. 11x equals 22. Now I can divide by the number in front of x. Did you get 2? I hope so. All right, let's take a look at 3. Again, I have to distribute before I can solve. So I take this x and I multiply it times the x in the parentheses and then by the negative 2 because the sign in front of the number goes with the number. Then I have to do the same thing over here. 2 times 2 and 2 times negative x or negative 1x. All right. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is minus 2x. 2 times 2 is 4. And 2 times negative 1x is negative 2x. Now I can solve this. I see these two negative 2x's here, and I know I can get rid of them right away and simplify my problem by just going plus 2x plus 2x. Now I got x squared equals 4. That looks like something more like what we can handle, doesn't it? I do my handy dandy square root of both sides of the equal sign and I get x equals 2? Or is it plus or minus 2? It's plus or minus 2. All right, here are some more examples that have distributing and an x squared in it. If there are parentheses, you distribute first to get rid of the parentheses. And you can use the box method if you like. You got to watch your negatives. And remember, you undo the square at the very end. So, taking a look at this first one, there's my line. I have to take the x from the first parentheses and put it in here and multiply it times 2. I'll change color for the 4. 4 goes to here and to here. So what I end up with is x times x, which is x squared, x times 2, which is plus 2x, 4 times x, which is plus 4x, and 4 times 2, which is plus 8. And it equals 3, which I multiply times the 2x, and times 4. 3 times 2x equals 6x. 3 times 4 equals 12. Now, I can simplify my like terms. What do I do when I have a 2x and a 4x? I add them together, right? And so what I would end up with is x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 6x plus 12. All I've done is add these two numbers together to get this one. What's interesting about that 6x is if I get rid of it, it simplifies my equation pretty much because I've got one on both sides. If I just do this, minus 6x minus 6x, I bring down my x squared, I bring down my 8, that goes away, equals 12. Now I have x squared plus 8 equals 12, so I have to do something about this 8. Get rid of it, so I just have x's on one side and numbers on the other. The opposite of positive 8 is negative 8. And x squared equals 4. Do my handy dandy square root of each side. Square root of x squared equals x. What's the square root of 4? If you said 2, you're only half right, because it's plus or minus 2. Isn't that maddening? All right, let's take a look at our other problem here, problem 2. It says x minus 3 times x plus 1 equals x plus 2 times x minus 5. Whew, that is a mouthful. So I have to take this first parentheses and multiply the first term by each term in the second parentheses. And then take the second term and multiply it by each term in the second parentheses. I have to do the same thing over on this other side. First term times both in the second parentheses. Second term times both in the second parentheses. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is plus 1x. Negative 3, because remember the sign in front of the number goes with the number, times x is minus 3x. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. X times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Well, I have to combine my like terms, don't I? I know all you pros out there are saying that before I even did. So I have 1x and negative 3x. I have to combine those two together. I'll bring down the rest of the equation. I have x squared. 1 minus 3 is negative 2x minus 3, and it equals negative 5x plus 2x would be negative 3x, so it would be x squared minus 3x, not a very attractive minus, minus 10. All right. One of the things that I notice right away is that I have an x squared on both sides. If I get rid of it, I get a much easier equation to deal with. I bring down this, and this, and this, and this, and I get negative 2x minus 3 equals negative 3x minus 10. Now, if I add 3x to both sides, negative 2x plus 3x leaves me 1x minus 3 equals, this is gone now, negative 10. I add 3, and I get x equals negative 10 plus 3, negative 7. A little bit of work doing the distribution, but once you get it all, your like terms combined, usually there is some quick things you can do to make your terms very simple. When we subtracted the x squared here from both sides, we ended up with negative 2x minus 3 equals negative 3x minus 10, a simple equation that you know how to solve. All right, in summary, if the equation has parentheses, the first step is to distribute or distribute. If to solve the equation with the x, you take, and that's what that wants to say is with an x squared, you take the square root. And unlike distribution, this is the last thing we do when we're solving. All right, what's next? You can log into quizzes.com. You can try practice worksheet 20. You can do Google Homework 20, or you can watch our next and final lesson for week 7, lesson 21. Here is today's joke of the day. Why are hairdressers never late for work? Well, it's because they know all the shortcuts. That's all for now. We'll see you again.